Have you ever wondered what event marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany in World War II? Picture this. The year is 1942, the heart of the Second World War, and Adolf Hitler has his sights set on a city bearing the name of his Soviet counterpart, Stalingrad. This city, nestled on the western bank of the Volga River, was not just a namesake, but also a strategic stronghold. Its capture would sever the Soviet Union's access to the Caucasians' oil fields, crippling their war effort and providing a significant morale boost for the German forces. Hitler, in his characteristic audacity, decided to capture the city. He diverted his powerful Sixth Army, led by the competent General Friedrich Paulus, from its primary mission to seize the oil fields, redirecting it toward Stalingrad. This decision, while seeming advantageous at first, would prove to be a pivotal turning point in the war. The German Sixth Army, one of the most formidable fighting forces of the time, advanced toward Stalingrad with a sense of invincibility. Their blitzkrieg tactics had won them victory after victory, and Stalingrad seemed to be just another city to conquer. Their initial successes were swift and brutal, as they pushed their way into the city inch by inch, building by building. The city's outskirts fell, and the German forces began to penetrate deeper into Stalingrad. The Soviet forces, seemingly on the back foot, were preparing for a fight like no other. But as the German forces pushed deeper into the city, they were unaware of the fierce resistance they were about to encounter. Stalingrad, a symbol of Soviet resilience and determination, was not going to fall easily. The stage was set for one of the most brutal and pivotal battles of the Second World War. The prelude to the battle was over, and the real fight for Stalingrad was about to begin. The siege of Stalingrad was far from a walk in the park for the German Sixth Army. In the face of an overwhelming adversary, the Soviet forces had to take drastic measures. They fortified their positions, transforming the city into a sprawling fortress, each building a bastion, every street a potential trap. The city's layout, with its dense infrastructure and twisting alleyways, offered ample opportunities for defensive strategies. The Soviets exploited this to their advantage, turning the city into a deadly labyrinth for the advancing Germans. The Soviet resistance was characterized by brutal urban warfare. The battle seethed with intensity, as the Soviets fiercely defended their city street by street, house by house. The close-quarters combat was savage and relentless, with neither side willing to give an inch. The Germans, accustomed to open-field warfare, found themselves ill-prepared for this new type of combat. The Soviets, on the other hand, adapted quickly to the urban environment, using the cityscape as both shield and weapon. Among the Soviet forces, snipers played a crucial role. They were the invisible threat, the unseen danger lurking in the shadows. From the safety of their hidden positions, they picked off German soldiers one by one, sowing fear and confusion among the enemy ranks. The most famous among them was Vasily Zaitsev, a shepherd-turned-sniper, whose deadly accuracy made him a legend. But perhaps the most striking aspect of the Soviet resistance was its resilience. The men and women of Stalingrad showed an unyielding determination to defend their city. They fought with a fierce tenacity fueled by a burning desire to protect their homeland. It was a battle of endurance and willpower, a test of their resolve. The Soviet forces were not just fighting a war, they were fighting for their lives, their homes, their city. They were fighting for their very existence, and they were willing to pay any price, bear any burden, endure any hardship. The Soviet forces were determined to defend their city to the last man, woman, and bullet. The battle for Stalingrad was not just fought in the streets but in the surrounding areas as well. The war had been a brutal game of chess, with lives hanging in the balance of each move. But as the winter of 1942 set in, the Soviet Union made a strategic play that would shift the course of the conflict. Known as Operation Uranus, the Soviet counter-offensive was a masterstroke of military strategy. Until this point, the German Sixth Army had been relentlessly advancing into the city, but the Soviet High Command had a different plan. Instead of focusing on the city's defense, they aimed to attack the weaker Romanian and Hungarian units protecting the German flank. This was not a fight for territory, it was a fight for time. The Soviets launched Operation Uranus on November 19, 1942. The attack was swift and brutal, catching the Axis forces off guard. The Romanian Third and Fourth Armies crumbled under the onslaught, and the Soviet forces pushed through, encircling the German Sixth Army in Stalingrad. The circle of Soviet forces around Stalingrad was like a tightening noose. The German Sixth Army, once the spearhead of the Nazis' Eastern campaign, found themselves trapped in the city they had sought to conquer. Supplies dwindled, morale plummeted, and the once invincible German war machine began to falter. But it wasn't just the physical encirclement that was a stroke of genius. Operation Uranus was a psychological victory as well. The German Sixth Army, once feared and respected, were now the ones living in fear. They were surrounded, cut off from their supply lines, and facing an enemy that was growing stronger by the day. The turning of the tide at Stalingrad was not just the result of military strategy, it was the result of resilience, determination, and a refusal to surrender. The Soviet Union had been pushed to the brink, but they pushed back, and in doing so, they changed the course of World War II. The German Sixth Army, once the hunters, were now the hunted. The Battle of Stalingrad was far from over, but the momentum had shifted, the tide had turned. Trapped and surrounded, the German Sixth Army faced a dire situation. The unforgiving Russian winter had descended upon them, turning the war-torn cityscape into a frigid wasteland. The once mighty force was now fighting not just the Red Army, but also the relentless cold. The temperature, dropping to 40 degrees below zero, was as ruthless an enemy as any soldier. Food and ammunition were in short supply. The German forces, once a formidable war machine, were now reduced to desperate men, scavenging for anything to keep them alive and fighting. Soldiers were forced to ration their meager supplies, with some reports even suggesting instances of cannibalism. The winter was not just sapping their strength, but also their humanity. In this dire situation, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of Operation Winterstorm. This was a relief attempt by the German forces, aiming to break the encirclement and provide much-needed supplies. However, the Soviet forces were prepared. They repelled the German assault, solidifying the encirclement and dashing any hopes of relief for the beleaguered Sixth Army. With no other option, Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus, the commander of the Sixth Army, was forced to make a decision that would seal the fate of his men. Despite direct orders from Hitler himself to fight to the last man, Paulus chose to surrender. On February 2, 1943, the German Sixth Army officially surrendered to the Soviet forces. Over 90,000 German soldiers were taken prisoner, marking the largest surrender of German forces during World War II. The fall of the German Sixth Army was not just a military defeat, but also a crushing blow to the morale of the German forces and the German people. The invincible image of the Wehrmacht had been shattered. The Battle of Stalingrad, once seen as a certain victory, had turned into a nightmare. With the surrender of the German Sixth Army, the Battle of Stalingrad came to an end. This marked a significant turning point in the war, shifting the momentum in favor of the Allies and laying the groundwork for the ultimate downfall of Nazi Germany. The Battle of Stalingrad was over, but its impact was just beginning to be felt. As the smoke cleared and the echoes of gunfire subsided, the aftermath of the Battle of Stalingrad emerged, a stark portrait of loss, endurance, and change. For Germany, the defeat was a significant blow. The German Sixth Army, once considered an invincible force, had been decimated. Hundreds of thousands of troops had been lost in the brutal urban warfare, a loss from which the German military machine would never fully recover. Yet the cost was not just in lives, but in the shift of the strategic balance of the war. The victory at Stalingrad had stripped the Germans of their aura of invincibility. It was a clear signal to the world that the tide of the war was turning. The battle had exposed the vulnerabilities of the German forces and their inability to sustain a long, drawn-out war on multiple fronts. On the other side, the Soviet Union, while heavily scarred, emerged from the battle with a newfound strength and resolve. The victory at Stalingrad had given the Soviet Red Army a significant boost in morale. The defenders of Stalingrad had not just protected their city, but they had also protected the pride and spirit of the entire Soviet Union. The strategic implications of the battle were far-reaching. The defeat of the German Sixth Army had opened up the Eastern Front. The Soviets now held the initiative and had gained the strategic upper hand. This victory had given them the confidence and the momentum to push back against the German forces. But perhaps the most significant impact of the Battle of Stalingrad was on the war's trajectory. It marked a turning point, a shift in momentum. From Stalingrad onwards, the Soviets would be on the offensive, pushing the Germans back, inch by inch, all the way to Berlin. The Battle of Stalingrad marked the beginning of a relentless Soviet advance that would eventually reach Berlin. The Battle of Stalingrad was more than just a military victory for the Soviet Union. It was a battle that would etch itself into the annals of history, symbolizing the indomitable will of the human spirit and the power of strategic brilliance. On one hand, the German forces had to grapple with the harsh reality of defeat. The remnants of the once formidable German Sixth Army returned home, carrying with them not just the physical scars of battle, but the psychological trauma of a crushing defeat. The myth of German invincibility, a cornerstone of Nazi propaganda, was shattered. The morale of the German troops plummeted, and doubts about their ability to win the war began to surface. The Battle of Stalingrad was a psychological blow from which the German forces never truly recovered. On the other hand, the Soviet forces emerged from the battle with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The victory at Stalingrad bolstered their morale, instilling in them a steadfast belief in their ability to resist and ultimately repel the German invasion. The Soviet soldiers who had defended Stalingrad became symbols of courage and resilience, their stories inspiring their comrades to fight on. But the significance of Stalingrad extends beyond the psychological impact. It was a turning point in World War II, a moment when the tide of the war began to shift in favor of the Allies. The defeat of the German Sixth Army marked the end of Germany's eastern expansion and set the stage for a series of Soviet offensives that would eventually push the German forces back to Berlin. In the grand scheme of World War II, the Battle of Stalingrad was a pivotal moment, a confrontation where the course of the war was irrevocably altered. It was a testament to the power of strategic planning, the resilience of the human spirit, and a stark reminder of the high cost of war. The Battle of Stalingrad, a testament to human resilience and strategic brilliance, forever changed the course of World War II. The Battle of Stalingrad, a brutal encounter between two determined forces, is etched in the annals of history. This battle, fought in the heart of the Soviet Union, was not merely a clash of armies, but a test of will, resolve, and human spirit. We journeyed through the prelude to this battle where the German and Soviet forces locked horns in a city named after the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin. The city's symbolic significance was matched only by the strategic importance it held for both sides. We've also delved into the Soviet resistance, a testament to their resilience and tenacity. In the face of a seemingly invincible German force, they held their ground, fought for each building, each street, and each inch of their city. Their resistance was not just a military strategy, but a statement of their indomitable spirit. Then came the turning of the tide, a shift in momentum that would change the course of the war. The encirclement and isolation of the German Sixth Army marked the beginning of the end for the German offensive. This was not just a tactical maneuver but a strategic masterstroke that would echo through the ages. We witnessed the fall of the German Sixth Army, an event that signaled the end of German ascendancy on the Eastern Front. Their defeat was not just a military setback, but a psychological blow that shattered the myth of German invincibility. We've seen the aftermath of the battle, the human cost of a conflict that raged for over 5 months. The loss of life on both sides was staggering, a grim reminder of the price of war. And finally, we've explored the significance of Stalingrad. This battle was more than a turning point in the Second World War. It was a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope, and a demonstration of the power of the human spirit. The Battle of Stalingrad, a symbol of resistance and determination, continues to resonate as a pivotal moment in world history.